welcome back to another video. This is going to be another video in my power ranking series. So we have made it down to the back end of my power rankings, and this is kind of where we start to get to the stinkers, the teams that are kind of stuck in a rebuild. So there's definitely a lot to talk about here, but none of these teams really have that playoff potential, I would honestly say. So yeah, let's just move on. Without further ado, we have at number 26 the Washington Commanders. Now the Washington Commanders, they have been stuck for quite some time. They have had some very bad luck. Every single break that they've had has just turned around and bit them in the behind. Nothing has really worked out for them through pretty much my entire lifetime of watching football. Entire 22 years I've been watching this sport. I mean, like, they had RG3 and Kirk Cousins was his backup, and somehow that didn't work out for them, which was a shame. RG3 was a monster coming out of college, had a fantastic rookie year, got injured, came back, got injured again, came back, and by then he was not the same RG3 that had come out of college in a blazing ball of fire. They've had terrible quarterbacking luck. They've had a few guys step up, do the job well, get injured, fall off the next year. I honestly, Ryan Fitzpatrick might be the best quarterback they've had over this time period. Carson Wentz is their next shot at this position. I mean, they might as well just draft somebody, for Christ's sake. I mean, they've had the draft picks to do so, but there's a stacked quarterback class coming in this year, so you never really know with these guys. Hopefully they decide to take somebody. If Carson Wentz doesn't work out, Carson Wentz could always work out. Last year could have just been a fluke season for him, and it could work out really well. They got him for really cheap, and he ends up turning this team around this year. But they really aren't a bad team. They're not a bad roster. They've always been there. They just haven't had a quarterback. They haven't been able to get any production out of that position. And when you can't get any production out of your quarterback, what are you going to do? It's just a major bottleneck for your offense. But I do have a lot of hope for this team moving forward. I really hope the football gods land in their favor for once in my lifetime. Their O-line got better than last year. Their O-line, their roster is a little bit better than last year. They released Landon Collins, but I don't know. For their sake, hopefully the football gods decide to finally give them a shot. That's really all there is to be said about them. And then moving down to number 27, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, growing up, I never thought I would ever see the Jacksonville Jaguars make the playoffs. Not in my lifetime. But a few years ago, behind a very juiced up, cracked out defense, they did. And that was it. They had that 1 year, and ever since then, they've kind of just been stuck again. They've been going through this rebuild for a very, very long time. That roster is gone now. That defense is gone now. But at least making the playoffs gave them something to rebuild off of. And now they have one of the most talented college quarterbacks of all time in Trevor Lawrence. The 5 fans showing up to their games have something to be hopeful about. They did a good job this offseason putting some talent around their young quarterback. They hired Doug Peterson as head coach. I think if anyone's the right man for the job, it's Doug. He's definitely got a bit of a reputation in this NFL, and he took a year off, but he's back, and I like the way this Jaguars team is looking. They have a bright future ahead of them, and they could always surprise everybody this season and make the playoffs. I don't really know how likely that is, but they're Jags fans are finally starting to see some upside in this rebuild, which is very good for them. Moving down to number 28, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are only a few years removed from a very, very good Super Bowl team that lost in a very disappointing game. And after they lost that game, that was it. It's been pure rebuild. And I gotta say, it's been very rough for them. They got a very talented tight end out of the draft a few years ago. But I gotta say, right now, the sky is the limit for this franchise. They got a young, talented quarterback sitting behind Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is getting another chance as a starting quarterback in this league. I don't know how much he deserves it. They could have traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, but hey, we'll see how this works out. At least, their quarterback, their rookie, gets to sit for a year. The kid is stunned. He is a stud. He is talented. They made all the right decisions this offseason. They only got younger. They got cheaper, and they just have a lot of upside right now going into the future. I don't really know how many games they're going to win this season, but it could be a lot worse. But yeah, there's really not much else to say about the Atlanta Falcons. They, like I said, they have all the upside in the world going into the future. They're finally starting to see something come out of this rebuild. They got good value out of all of their players that they sent off. And, that's going to cap it all for the Falcons. So, moving down to number 29. Probably just going to extend this video, make it a little longer than the rest, and finish off this list because we are close. So yeah, the New York Jets at number 29. They are a team that has been in a rebuild since the legendary butt fumble. They were a team that came out of nowhere, had like 2 years of prosperity, and ever since then they've been on the bottom rung of the NFL. They just had a fantastic draft class. They have a lot of young talent all around their football team. Their defense is still looking very weak, but again, they're another team that's in a rebuild that has a lot of potential. They have a very smart, defensive-minded head coach. They have somebody who can build them up at defense, and he does stand very. He does like his young quarterback, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson did not have a good year last year, but he does have all the talent in the entire world. And, it's just time to see this kid develop. It's time to see all these players develop, and if they can't get it done, then it's just going to be more of the same with this team. There's really not anything else to say about the Jets. It's time to start putting things together. I get that they're still young and they're going to take another year. I don't see them winning a lot of games this season, but they're going to pick up a couple. They're going to learn some things. Hopefully they've improved off of last year. I don't know how true that statement is, but we will see. Moving forward, we have the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans have wasted so much talent over the years. We have seen so many great players win nothing with this franchise over the last 20 years. And they just have never, I don't really know if it comes down to ownership or what, but they've just been making the wrong decisions. Let's just say that. They've been making the wrong decisions. Last offseason, when they were in the coaching cycle, nobody wanted to work with them. And somebody decided, hey, I'll give the Texans a shot. And he actually put together an identity inside of the Houston Texans organization. So the way that they responded was by firing him. Now, if you want to piss off the football gods, that's how you do it. You spit in the one guy's face who turned around and actually gave you a little bit of light. And now they have this young quarterback, Davis Mills, who was a third-round draft pick last offseason. And he did very well in the games that he played. He has a lot of potential. He's got a strong arm. And I got to say, getting a quarterback as good as him out of the third round is quite the break. Like I said, I would have really liked to see him stick with the head coach they had last season. I guess they fired him thinking they would get somebody better. And they didn't. They just ended up moving up their defensive coordinator because nobody wanted to work with them this year. And that's kind of what happens when you fire the only guy that gave you a chance. Is no one's going to want to work with you. You just prove to everybody that there's no job security in your position. And I don't know. I don't really know the names of a lot of players on this roster. There are a lot of no-name guys. If you're a Texans fan, you gotta really just hold on and hope for some good draft picks coming in the future, because right now they don't have any reason to sign free agents. They don't have any reason to do really just about anything. They had a chance with a good coach. They started to build an identity, and they fired the guy. And that's really all I got to say about the Houston Texans. Is if you're a fan of them, good luck. And moving forward into the Chicago Bears. I mean, it's the same story. There's nobody, no talent on this roster. The only player with any talent on this roster is Justin Fields. And instead of supporting him, getting him an offensive-minded head coach to help him put things together on the field, they decided to go put him behind a defensive-minded coach again. And I don't know. I hope that this guy does the right thing, gets him the support he needs. I'm really rooting for Justin Fields. Not the Bears, but I'm rooting for Justin Fields. But to be completely honest, we're probably going to see more of the same with the Bears. We've seen since Jay Cutler left, where they draft a young quarterback with a lot of potential and ruin his career by not getting him any help, ruining his name, ruining his reputation. Everybody starts calling that kid a bust, and they just cut him and draft a new one. It's just a wheel that keeps on turning with the Bears. And I don't know, I think the issue at this point with them just comes down to maybe ownership. They just make bad decisions constantly. They get a good defense. They ruin it. They just ruin every good thing that comes for them. So if you're a Bears fan, hope for a scandal that gets your owner kicked out of the league. That's your best luck right now of any type of improvement. Moving forward, we have the Seattle Seahawks sitting here at number 32. And to be honest, I don't know what happened to these guys after their Super Bowl loss in 2015. I mean, it was a close game. They were a good team. Honestly, I just think it was a combination of a few factors. Their coach came in the league with all these ideas. He revolutionized the game. He revolutionized defense. He went to 2 Super Bowls. And after that, I just think everyone figured out what he was doing, and the game evolved past him. They kind of picked up on it, adapted, and he didn't. And after that, players got injured. They their over time, their roster was just depleted. None of the good players were ever replaced, and you just saw a steady decline for this team until eventually they finally traded Russell Wilson and let Bobby Wagner walk. And I'm happy for Wilson and Wagner because now they're on good teams that they could honestly win a Super Bowl with. Bobby Wagner just played his first game with the Rams. He looked pretty good. Russell Wilson is got his first game coming up this weekend, and he's got a good roster on him. They're both in position to win after years of suffering underneath the Seattle Seahawks name. And that's really it. I think it's time they just wipe the slate off and start over. Their quarterback, their coach was once praised as being one of the best in the league, and now everybody has nothing but complaints about him. He's just outdated. There's not a single talented player on the roster, and Geno Smith is going to see time on the field in the NFL this season. So, very sorry, Seahawks fans, but your team is sitting down at the bottom of the list at number 32. And that's it. So, that's my power ranking tier list. How did your team do? Did they land where you wanted them to? Go ahead, leave what you're thinking down in the comments. If you hated it, if you got something, a disagreement with me, go ahead. We could talk about it. If there's anything, if you do like where your team landed, go ahead and let me know. And yeah, thank you guys for coming by, and have a good one.